For a couple of days in the middle of October, a group of really smart people, a lot smarter than me, are going to be discussing a technology to reduce climate change that sounded like science fiction to me the first time that I heard it. It's called direct air capture, DAC for short. But despite this conversation, the solution to climate change isn't just going to emerge out of thin air. This has to be a dialogue. We got to hear your voice. Now, I'll let the experts tell you about what to expect in New York, but first, you got to hear this origin story.
So, as legend would have it, really, this whole direct air capture thing started back in 1999 with a German scientist called Klaus Lackner. He was sitting at his kitchen table with his eighth grade daughter working on a science fair project. So the two find out that they could capture carbon dioxide from the air using an acid-base reaction. Now, that technology is not particularly novel, but scaling it to the point of reducing climate change, now that was far out of the equation. But these days, this is exactly what companies are trying to do. In fact, over $1.5 billion have been invested into private companies in the direct air capture space. That sounds like a big number, but there's still a ton of research and development that needs to be done to happen in the direct air capture space.
What's exciting about direct air capture today, as opposed to 10 years ago, is that we have now a bunch of different ways to do it. In fact, we have identified no less than 11 distinct technologies and an even larger number of distinct configurations.
Having more options is great because it gives us the possibility to find optimal solutions per location. And scaling these technologies is going to take time. They're currently too expensive, too energy intensive. So if we want them to meaningfully contribute to climate change mitigation by 2050, we have to make massive progress on R&D this decade. I will be honest with you, there won't be any silver bullet DAC solution. Different systems perform better in different environments, so there are important regional considerations to take into account.
The US currently leads the world in terms of direct air capture investment, but momentum is building up globally. So there are 27 facilities that have been commissioned for direct air capture around the world. And on average, each of them absorb 2.5 million tons of carbon. That sounds like a lot, but it's actually a drop in a bucket. So it's estimated that by the year 2050, we are needing to absorb between 2 to 6 billion tons of carbon annually from the atmosphere. The DAC industry is keen to build these facilities, but where they go depends on a number of factors, such as the technology, the economics, and the politics of the region. And once built, they could have an impact on the local community in unpredictable ways.
Speaking of local communities, let's think about a simple question. How does direct air capture impact health on a local level? The question might be simple, but the answer is not. Certain DAC applications may reduce sulfur and nitrogen oxides in the air we breathe. You know, that stuff that's in acid rain and smog. That might sound great, but the question is, do they also introduce new pollutants into local environments? Are these questions popping up because those risks are large? Or because we in this space have not spent the time and resources necessary to understand and explain them? Listen, I know what I've done here is introduce a bunch more questions, but that's exactly why we're getting together to discuss this stuff, to hopefully get closer to some answers.